Hi, I'm April Collier with Pacific Customs Brokers USA. I'd like to take a few moments today to discuss the importance of complying with U.S. Customs regulations and what you, the importer, can do to assure that you are meeting the expectations in this area. There are a number of customs regulations that impose an obligation on the trade community to act with reasonable care in your obligations to customs. Two concepts that emerge from the Customs Modernization Act of 1993 are informed compliance and shared responsibility. In order to maximize voluntary compliance with U.S. law and customs regulations, the trade community needs to be well informed of their rights and responsibilities by customs. Let's discuss what some of those expectations entail for the importer. The importer of record is responsible for using reasonable care to enter, classify, and determine the value of imported merchandise, and to provide any other information necessary to enable U.S. Customs and Border Protection to properly assess duties, to collect accurate statistics, and to determine whether applicable legal requirements have all been met. The use of reasonable care demands that the importer understand and comply with all of the regulations that affect your transactions. You may be dependent on your customs broker to assist you in the classification of merchandise and in compiling the information in order to submit your entry to customs. However, it is important to note that the importer is the party who is legally liable to ensure that the information provided to customs is accurate and that all duties and taxes are appropriately paid. Using reasonable care in exercising your responsibilities as an importer is not necessarily easily explainable, as the circumstances of each transaction will vary. Customs has developed a helpful checklist that importers can and should use in guiding them in their compliance efforts. While not all-encompassing, appropriate use of this guide does speak to building a portfolio of compliance by showing an intention and an attitude of understanding and following the rules. For a copy of that checklist, we would direct your attention to the Informed Compliance publication on reasonable care, which can be found on the Customs website at cbp.gov. There are a few basic elements that an importer must bear in mind when entering goods into the United States. The three most fundamental issues are classification, valuation, and country of origin. Classification of your merchandise speaks to the essential character. What is it? What is it made of? What is its intended purpose? Every unique imported article must be classified under the Harmonized Commodity Description and Coding System, otherwise known as the tariff. The tariff code determines the duty rate that must be paid, in addition to other laws and regulations that must be met for a particular good. Valuation is most usually determined to be the transaction value or the price paid or payable value of the goods that is to be declared to customs. However, there are a number of considerations that must go into this equation, such as the relationship between the buyer and the seller, whether the buyer has provided any assists to the seller, any discounts taken, and other matters. The country of origin of the goods must be taken into consideration, as this will determine whether the goods are eligible for any free trade agreements, the marking requirements of the goods, as all goods entering the commerce of the United States must be marked with the country of origin, and whether any anti-dumping or countervailing duties will be applicable. Not all importers give the same consideration to customs law that they naturally would to tax and other financial matters. They may have an expectation that their broker is responsible for their compliance, or they may be under the incorrect assumption that customs is not paying attention to them. This can be a serious error, as being ignorant of or disregarding or violating customs law can be very costly and resource intensive. In order to protect the revenue of the United States and to guarantee compliance with all customs regulations, importers are required to post a security bond with customs. This is especially important as customs does, in most cases, release your merchandise into the United States before final entry and duty payment is made. A bond is not insurance for the importer and does not negate the importer's obligation to customs. If the surety is forced to pay due to an importer defaulting, they do have the legal right to demand reimbursement from the principal. The commercial invoice that you provide to customs is your handshake. It is necessary that you provide an adequate and legible description of the transaction in order for customs to determine the eligibility for entry. This includes a description of the merchandise in layman's terms, the correct quantities, values, and country of origin of the merchandise, and information regarding the consignee in the United States. Your customs broker can assist in providing you with the information regarding all of the necessary elements on an invoice. There are certain types of merchandise that will require more detailed information above these basic invoice descriptions. Essential practices for avoiding customs delays and penalties include providing the required documentation in a complete, legible, and detailed fashion, ensuring that your goods are properly marked with the country of origin, ensuring that your goods meet all other government agency requirements, and understanding your obligations as an importer. A good motto to import by is, know before you go. We recommend that you reach out to your customs broker for assistance in determining what you may be faced with when importing a new product or working with a new vendor in your supply chain, or any other importing questions that you may have. This has been a brief overview of the importance of complying with the customs regulations. For further information about how Pacific Customs Brokers can assist you, please contact us. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to look for future installments of Your Broker Knows informational video series.